Now in this section I'm going to talk about default route and injecting a default route into Ospf database. You can see that I have one internet connection, and that is router 3's connection to backbone 1, and I assume that this is the only way that I can reach internet IP addresses. So it is wise to have a default route that leads me to router 3, and router 3 will forward all those packets to internet. So I can go to router 3 and do it in several ways. The first thing is this: I can go to router 3, and first of all let's see IP routing table on router 3, and you can see that there is no gateway of last resort here. There is no default route here, and you can see that I have some EIGRP and some connected, some OSPF routes here. They are not so important here. I want to have a default route, and I can do this like this. I can use IP route 0000 to 0000. This is subnet mask, and I can say that the default route will forward all packets to serial 01 interface of router 3 that takes me to internet. So I can use serial 01 and hit enter. Now if I try to see the IP routing table on router 3, you can see that it tells me there is a gateway of last resort here, and that is going through serial 01. So I can have this like this. Now I can go to Ospf process and use the default information originate command. By using default information originate command, I'm using this route that is already in my routing table and injecting it into my Ospf database. So if I go, for example, to switch 1 that is in the other end of my network, I can see that show IP route tells me there is a last resort gateway of last resort that takes me to internet, and that takes me to router 2, that it will take me to another router and another router. And if I go down, you can see that this is a type of LSA type 5 route that is in my database, and it is an external, of course, you know. I can see it in my database. Let's check this. Show IP Ospf database, and I want to see external LSAs, and if I check this, you can see that I have this 0000 that takes me finally to router 3. So this is kind of external route. This is LSA type 5. Now you can see that this is here, and it is injected into my database. So I can reach to any route. For example, if I try to trace an arbitrary IP address 1, 2, 3, 4, for example, you can see that it will take me to router 3 finally, and after that router 3 is responsible to forward my packet to internet. Let me get out of this and go to router 3. Now I want to do something. You can see that I have selected default information originate, and I'm not using any other parameter. Let me go back and remove this IP route from routing table. Now by removing this IP route and using only the default information originate, you can see that I do not have a default route in my routing table in other ways, in other routers. You can see that the gateway of last resort is not set now. So what happened here? Default information originate looks into its own IP routing table. If there is a static route, if there is a default route, it will use it and originate it into Ospf database. If there is not, I have one other option. I can go to router Ospf 1, and I can use default information originate command, and after that I can use always and hit enter. This tells me even if there is no default route in my routing table, I can originate this, but this will somehow lead me to a black hole, so this is not desired always. So you better have a static route that takes you to internet. So let's go to switch 1. If I try it again, you can see that gateway of last resort is here, and I have the route in the end as an external. So both of these are the same. So I go back to router 3 and remove this command. By removing this command, I still have this file information originate command here, and still I need this IP route, and I add it to my database. So I want to show you something else. I go to router Ospf 1 process, and again I use default information originate, and after that I have some very interesting thing. You can change the metric type here. I'm not going to change it, but you can have a metric, and when you use metric, if you have several connections to internet, I have only one of course here, but if I had 2 or more connections to internet, I will prefer one of those. So to prefer one of those, you can assign a lower metric to that, and to hinder router 3 from reaching other networks. When this network is available, you can assign higher metric to those networks. So this is very nice to use metrics if you are having several connections to internet and have one of them preferred.